Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the Journey to Greatness with David McDonald, the GOAT. All right. Morning, Fatima. Top of the morning. Happy Wednesday. All right. So, getting our meditation routine. I will see you all on the other side. All right, everybody, welcome back. Amy, good morning. AJ, good morning. Auntie Luisa, good morning. Thank you, and I hope you do the same. So we just finished our meditation routine. Now we're going to get into our journaling routine. I will see you all on the other side. All right, everybody. I don't know why that didn't go off. It's weird. So we just finished our journaling routine, and we're going to get into our reading routine now. So I will see you all on the other side. All right, everybody, welcome back. So we just finished our reading routine. So we're jumping into chapter 4 of the Law of Divine Compensation book by Marianne Williamson. And chapter 4 is called Transforming Negative Sense of Self. So if you're looking for a pick-me-up this morning, this is going to be the message for you. When we think or say something negative, even if we believe we don't really mean it, the thought carries creative energy. Every thought is a cause that creates an effect. Major key point right here. An undisciplined mind, easily tempted into faithless and unloving thoughts, is a huge deterrent to success. Negative thoughts that deactivate the law of divine compensation tend to fall into 3 major categories. Negative self of sense, negative sense of self, anger, and guilt. We'll look at these categories deeper. Spiritual growth involves giving up the stories of your past so the universe can write you a new one. So, to me, a focused mind is getting up every single morning and applying myself to this journey. That, to me, is a focused mind. Because so many different things have to happen in order for me to effectively be up, be prepared, and be present for the morning's, showing. So for me, in order for me to be here mentally, I have to be focused. Not only obviously in the morning, but I also have to be focused throughout the day to make sure that I'm not beaten up too bad, or I'm not allowing my emotions or experiences to alter my mood so much that, I don't want to wake up, or, my mindset has changed to some capacity. And even though these things do happen on occasion, I don't sit in those places of of um, of doubt or fear, and things like that. So releasing negative self-concepts is important, not simply because they hurt you. It's important because they're not true. The spiritual journey is a path of surrendering our fear-based thoughts and allowing them to be replaced by God's. So the biggest thing that I've realized is when you have these fear-based thoughts and you experience these experiences and they distill a feeling of fear or of self-doubt or whatever it may be, the number one thing to anchor yourself to is that God is within you. And so therefore he will give you the power and the strength and the balance and the clarity to change your mindset or to change your feeling that you feel within, which ultimately will change your reality. So anytime you have these fear-based thoughts, one way that I get rid of them is I write them down on a piece of paper. If there's something I'm concerned about, if there's something, and then I scratch it out, I put a line through it, and then I write what my alternative reality is, or who I identify as now, as the alternate to, what may be driving the fear-based thought that I'm feeling. And some fear-based thoughts would be, I'm not good enough, I'm a loser, I don't have what it takes, my father or mother was right about me, I'm dumb, I'm a failure, etc. I don't want to keep saying all these, but you get my point. So such painful thoughts arise from over-identification with the material plane. This was a gentle reminder, even for me today. Identifying with your material self rather than your spiritual self will always leave you vulnerable to self-hating projections, because the mortal self is not who you are. So your physical self is limited to our senses, right? Our spiritual selves are unlimited. They operate on an unlimited plane, one that cannot be disrupted by anything that is physical. And so understanding that there's those two sides, and that we must spend, pause, that we it is very highly suggested that we spend a large amount of time of our lives in our spiritual plane, which is perfect, which is godly, which is everyone. If you're a man, if you're a woman, everything that you say that you are and that you know you are as a person, even if your material side has projected or you've made a mistake or whatever it may be, your spiritual side is perfect, and that is who you truly are. So it's very important, or it's highly suggested that we don't live a physical based life. And with that, you will not feel feelings of fear. You will not feel feelings of limitation. You will not feel feelings of guilt. You will not feel feelings of anger, because you understand that the material self is just a temporary experience. It's just an illusion. The actual manifestation is the imagination and the spirit that flows and that's within you. Huge difference. So, A Course in Miracle teaches us that all of us are special, and none of us are special. All of us carry the mark of God, yet we carry the mark as one. No one has any more or less capacity than anyone to be used as a conduit for the genius that pours forth constantly from the mind of God. This genius pours into us as one, but is accepted by us separately. God's greatness is a gift that is offered to all of us, but our choice whether or not to receive it. I think that's a really big point. I do align with this perspective 100%. And I do believe that every one of us is special. And I do believe that everyone out there has the ability to create and manifest a reality for themselves that does not involve suffering, but it involves financial freedom. It involves personal happiness. It involves relational happiness. It involves optimism and positivity at all times. It involves a perfect life, literally a perfect life. And what this statement is clearly saying is everybody, if we look at the whole entire population, all people as one people, then when you look at what God has blessed us with, He has poured into all the generations, all the people that exist on this life, in this life, right, or right now, and frankly, through all past time. So you have God pouring into everyone, and not everybody will accept that power in this lifetime, which is completely okay. But personally, I have, and it is a power that is harnessed and is grown through self-discovery, um, time with self, clarity of the mind, and it's a very powerful thing to experience and to be open to accepting. But once you do, and you understand that you are special because you are a child of God, then the whole world is open for the taking. And not only is the whole world open for the taking, but we start to get into competition. So when a lot of people ask me in my business or my industry, who's your number one competitor? And my answer, cliche, of course, is me. I don't have any competitors. There's nobody out there that's competing against me. I'm number one in the nation. I'm number one in the world at what I do. But what's the interesting caveat to that thought is that the person right next to me is also number one in the nation and is also number one in the world, right? But at the end of the day, none of that matters to me. The only thing that matters is I'm focused on me. And there's enough. This book says there's enough of the pie to go around to everyone. So if you are number one in what you do, that's defined by how you want to define it. I could define it by saying I have the most gross sales. I've helped the most amount of families. I've had the largest average in this, or I've had the largest this, or the largest that, or the largest this, whatever. At the end of the day, or I'm number one when it comes to personal satisfaction for the work that I'm doing. You get to define what that looks like for you. It's not always, I'm ranking number one. I'm number one. I'm number one. Although that is sometimes very nice. But my point here is that there's enough of the pie to go around. We don't have any competitors. The universe is abundantly infinite. So again, infinite amount of thoughts. So when something happens to you, you keep your mind open to say, I can receive an infinite amount of different alternatives. And to bring it to scale it down, I can have 10,000 different alternatives. Example, I was speaking to an agent yesterday, and when you sell a house with a septic system, there's a certain county, it's called the RSS county certificate. You got to get that. And so the agent said to me yesterday, oh, this is going to delay the transaction, right? It was supposed to close in like a week. This is going to delay the transaction. And I said, I looked at the message, right? And I was like, that's a thought. Thank you, Richard. That's a thought. And so I just texted him back. I was like, hey, that's a thought. He's like, no, but the county is 30 days out. Blah, 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 blah. Right. So I'm looking at this message. I'm like, yeah, that's a thought. There's an infinite amount of possibilities that are there. It could get rushed. It could get into the hands of one person who says, ooh, man, this thing's about to close. We got to get this straight through. Oh, or this or that or this, whatever. There's an infinite amount of different things that we could think about. So to think that, oh, this is going to delay, I know that there's 30-day waiting list, blah, 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 blah. To think that that's the only reality is absolutely absurd, period. And I will think that all the way up until the day of closing, until I see that certificate in my hand. And even after, I will say that's still absurd, because my imagination and my ability to accept the infinite amount of possibilities that the universe can throw my way is wide open. And I think that's really, really important. And that's applied to anything and everything that you do, whether it's financial gain, whether it's personal gain, characteristical gain, doesn't matter. Keeping your mind and your heart open to all of the possibilities of the universe, blessings will shower you. Okay, this is a big one. Children. I assume when the futurist and universally acknowledged genius Buckminster Fuller was asked his definition of a genius, his response, someone who had the right mother. I assume he meant someone who had the most positive childhood programming, someone who was told when young that he or she was brilliant and would succeed. If told as children they were bound to succeed, then we tend to. If told as children that we're bound to fail, then we tend to do that instead. But even if your mother and father didn't tell you, no excuses, here's the uppercut. You were wonderful when you were a child. Your divine father and mother tells you now. Boom, no excuses. So you have, I was talking to somebody the other day. I believe that children with learning disorders are really special. I know it's not bad. Not to the point where it's like debilitating like mindset, or like a sympathetic or empathetic mindset for them. But it's this idea, I get this feeling of triumphant. I get this feeling of additional power, because on the surface, people judge them as not being qualified or having a problem with learning. And I think that's bull crap. From what I've seen and what I've experienced, I've worked with some phenomenal people and children for that matter, young children who, were said to have mental and learning disabilities, but in fact wasn't the case. And I think it's interesting as a society how we are quick to label and judge those children who don't perform at the level as the average student, and at the same time put on a pedestal kids who are ultra geniuses, or who just get it a lot faster, or whatever you want to say, who are really smart, right? Put them on a pedestal rather than humbling and grounding them back down to the average person, because they are average, frankly. Pause. They're not average. They're special, but so is every average, child. They're special. Every child with a learning deficiency, they're special. So I think holding everybody on that same plane creates a level of equality that cannot be erased as a child. When you get older, then you go into society and you treat people and you work with people. You are able to operate from a love-based standpoint because you're not walking around as if you're the only God's great, gift to earth, because all of us are. But it's just a matter of, recognizing that and seeing it. And that's why, like I was saying the other day, the agent who was, telling me, oh, well, I did this amount many transactions and, oh, I've been in the industry for 10 years and blah, blah, blah. Well, she's identifying with her material side 100 million percent. 100 million percent. Not a problem to me. Not a problem at all. But at the end of the day, I'm operating from a spiritual side. And so coming from a spiritual side, I don't wish bad upon her by any stretch. And I hope that her business continues to prosper. But at the end of the day, I know who I am and I know where I'm going. And so only in time will people's reality catch up with my imagination. And by that time, I'm already, jet set to the next stratosphere of where I'm going to be going or what I want to be doing and how I want to make my impact on, humanity and this, that, and the other. So again, that's the power of you getting to be you and you just getting to live your life. And everybody has that own identity and DNA that they get to make up, in terms of, creating their reality. So as children, pour into your children, pour into ideas. I was poured into, first off with the discipline that I was raised with, right? And again, as a gentle reminder, I am not who I was when I was a child. I have evolved from that place. I've allowed the universe to rewrite my future, rewrite my present, right, my right now. So everything I've come from is an old page in an old book. So none of that stuff matters. And we have the ability to change everything right now. Everything that's come before us, it doesn't matter. Physically and societal pressures and opinions, they will try to label you and put you in a box to say, no, you did this. This is where you come from. So therefore you are. But that I'm telling you that whole ideology and that whole philosophy is skewed to a strong degree because we're not considering the spiritual power that exists within all of us and the God that exists within all of us, making us making us the powerful creators of this lifetime. Ooh. Enjoy loving. Excuse me. Well, yeah, enjoy loving too. Every loving thing that ever happened to you was real, and everything else was an illusion. So if it's not love, it's an illusion. Interesting perspective. All right. So with that, we will conclude, at least in that book. Today is this December 5th. So Your Best You Ever book. We're going to read our passage today. And the passage from this book, the title is Keep Possessions in Perspective. A man's life does not consist in the abundance of his possessions. So in other words, your material self. Wait, actually, no, hold on. Okay. An abundance in material things in life. In other words, we shouldn't live our lives in the material, right? We should live our life in the spiritual. A man's life does not consist in the abundance of his possessions. All too often, we focus our thoughts and energies on the accumulation of earthly treasures. Boom. Leaving precious little time to accumulate the only treasures that really matter, the spiritual kind. Our material possessions have the potential to do great or terrible harm. Depending on how we choose to use them, as believers, our instructions are clear. We must use our possessions in accordance with God's commandments, and we must be faithful stewards of the gifts He has seen fit to bestow upon us. Today, let us honor God by replacing no other gods before him. God comes first, everything else comes next, and everything else most certainly includes all of our earthly possessions. Don't put the Lamborghini in the driveway over God. If you want to be truly happy, you won't find it on an endless quest for more stuff. Um, you'll find it in receiving God's generosity and in passing that generosity along. Bill Hybels, A Lesson for the Heart and the Soul. Everything we have is a loan from God. Holocaust survivor Corrie ten Boom writes, I have held many things in my hands, and I have lost them all. But whatever I placed in God's hands, that I still possess. Remember, your real riches are in heaven, so conduct yourself accordingly. Whew. Deep. Um, Two things to end here. One thing is, I forgot that idea. But another thing is, when you meditate, try meditating with your. I was talking to this gentleman who practices kung fu, and he says when he meditates with his eyes open. And so therefore all of his senses are operating at once. I think it would be kind of weird if I was just sitting here, or pause. I think it would be very different if I was sitting here with my eyes open, just looking at the camera. So I'm not going to do that. But when you're alone, try it. Have a room of complete silence and just meditate with your eyes open. Being able to see and then feel the energy that surrounds you, I think would be a really important and powerful exercise. So with that being said, thank you for joining me, day 35 of 365 with David McDonald, the GOAT, this morning on the Journey to Greatness. If you haven't visited the Journey to Greatness page, I highly encourage you to do so, and just press the like button there. That'd be awesome. We've all of our likes have been organic. I haven't done any like marketing or anything like that. And so I appreciate the love and support as always. And I hope that everybody today has the best day of their lives. And I will see you all tomorrow at 5 a.m. Peace.